Welcome to a brand new episode of the Bold Take Podcast. I'm Austin Hill. With me, as always, is Austin Wader. And look, we talked about last week. Not a lot of excitement. Just looking at rankings and matchups right away coming into this past weekend. But we talked about it. As always, there are always trap games. Unfortunately, we were wrong, and there was absolutely no excitement this weekend. And it was maybe the most boring, bland college football season we've ever seen.
Yeah,
Uh,
so much for all those people that are. I'm pretty sure it was week 6 last year, if I remember correctly, too, where literally everyone's like, "Oh, this is a bad weekend," and then literally everything happened. Just couple of upsets, couple of exciting games happen. Week 6 is maybe just the week we have to look forward to from now on.
Yeah. Look, it didn't quite live up to last year's shakeup. Like I talked about, we broke the record for most top 25 teams losing uh in a week 3 or 4 times last year. I think it ended up getting to 7 or 8 top 25 teams losing in a week. We didn't get that far. But we did have quite a bit of shakeup. And I think, and we'll talk about it a little bit more when we get to the AP poll, but I think a fun part of this was we got to see some teams kind of dabble into the AP poll based on the way some of these teams kind of shook it up. We got to see some teams we hadn't seen around in a while and get to move their way back into this top 25. But we'll talk about that in a minute. Let's go ahead and start with talking about some of these games. And first off, I want to start right away. Cincinnati takes down number 14 Iowa State 38-30. Final score to me extremely deceiving
Yeah.
because this first half Cincinnati put it on
hmm
Iowa State. They did a great job kind of showing their grit and resilience and their talent as a team coming back in this game, but ultimately it wasn't enough as they still fell 8 points short. And we talk about it. The Big 12 is this conference where you never really know what's going to happen. These teams always play each other so well and so closely. And in this one, even though Iowa State had a much better second half, they just couldn't make up for how poorly they played in that first half.
Yeah, as I'm sure we'll get to, we'll talk about it in a little bit. There is literally one team in the Big 12 that I look at right now as like for sure top of the pack. There's no doubt in my mind. Then there's a whole lot of, well, maybe them, maybe them, maybe them. That's what I'm talking about. I remember I said it coming into week. I was like, Cincinnati's favoring this game. That is just flat out disrespectful to Iowa State. Well, honestly, I'm surprised Cincinnati wasn't favored by more, if we're being honest now. But
Yeah,
that's the one thing I love. That's why we play the games. That's why you don't just look at polls and think, oh, 14 versus an unranked. No way anything happens there. This is why we play the games. Yeah, 260 yards on the ground for Cincinnati. Iowa State could not stop their run game. It was hard to stop anybody. Pryor, Walker, shoot, even Sorsby, the quarterback, got in on the ground game as well. So great job of them getting up early and then being able to keep things alive. Credit to the defense making a couple of stops. I will say this for Iowa State. On the last play of the game, do not give up and just run out of bounds. Don't do that. That was just pure quitter mode. The man's just
agreed.
like, I've had enough of this. I'm out of here. And so, listen, it's a great win for Cincinnati. It's a win that coaching staff really needed because this was the year everyone's like, if something doesn't happen this year, it's a whole new coaching staff coming in. So we'll see if they can keep it up. They got a couple of easy games here to kind of continue to build momentum. And for Iowa State, again, the Big 12's pure chaos. Who knows where it leads for Iowa State? But I remember we've been kind of saying Iowa State's been at the top here for a bit of time since that Kansas State win, and now back in the middle of the pack.
Agreed. And look, I'll take a little bit of credit here. There are going to be some of these games that we didn't sniff and talk about at all. But this is one of our game previews. I thought it would be an interesting matchup to see what might happen. Iowa State going into Cincinnati. A Cincinnati team's played a lot of good ball this year. Only one loss coming into this game. Just played an absolute barn burner with Kansas not too long ago, who I think is another extremely talented team in this Big 12. Um, and we see them come out and now get the big win. I didn't think Cincinnati would win. I didn't even know if this game would be close, but I thought it was interesting to keep an eye on.
Yeah, I agree.
Um, but let's talk about another game in the Big 12. Again, talk about unpredictability. Baylor takes down Kansas State 35-34. Kansas State falls to 2-4 on the season. Baylor up to 4-2. look, this was a great game, back and forth, a lot of action in the last 5 minutes of this game, which was fun. But we've got to talk about a particular rule that I don't know how you fix this, but it was a tough sequence for Kansas State. They have the big completion up the field, um, and it's trying to tackle on the sideline, and Baylor Bear defender, two hands, rips off the helmet of the receiver. He breaks away and takes
Yeah,
off up the
right.
field for
Yeah.
a touchdown. But the touchdown's called back. It's just like a 15-yard penalty from the spot of the foul. And I understand that play does need to stop because it's a dangerous sequence. But
Right.
in this very particular instance, we talk about losing by 1 point because you end up not scoring a touchdown on that drive at all. And again, nobody else was there to stop this guy. Once he pulled away from the defender, he scored an easy touchdown. So they have to kick a field goal, and it leaves the door open for the Baylor Bears. The situation would not have been the same had that touchdown been allowed to stand. I'm just saying, I'm not saying it's going to be a strategy or a bailout, but if a guy's about to beat you, why not rip his helmet off? It's
Well,
the
and
same
that
thing.
and that goes along with pass interference rules in college
Agreed.
football because NFL it's spot of the foul for the penalty. College football it's just 15 yards. So when in doubt, if you get beat like on a double move on a route, you could literally just trip the guy up, get a pass interference call, and be like, that's better than giving up a touchdown. So it's
Agreed.
stuff where it's like it's not a bad thing to do.
Yeah, it's like it's supposed to be a penalty. It's supposed to be a punishment. But instead, we're talking about Kansas State. Again, I'm not going to say they would have just for sure won this game, but the situation would have been much different for Baylor. They would have had to play the game a lot differently had there been 7 points on the board. And so, again, I don't know exactly what the solution is, but I don't think that ripping a guy's helmet off as your last line of defense and no one there to stop him is necessarily the right way to go about it. Maybe better field position somehow. Maybe it's a half the distance to the goal type of deal instead of a 15-yard penalty just from wherever. If you rip somebody's head off half the distance to the goal, because look, it was a great game and a great finish, but it does kind of leave room for it's a rare circumstance, but it kind of sucked the way it happened in this game because it was a pretty big swing.
I mean, it's unfortunate, but I will also say this for Kansas State. You talk about that. If Avery Johnson doesn't force a ball into double coverage right when they're about to be in field goal range with 5 minutes left, they
It's
probably win
true.
this game. So I get it, but it's one of those rules where it's a rule at every level. They stop it no matter what. So it's hard to really get mad at a rule because it makes sense. You don't want players going out there tackling them with no helmet
Agreed.
on and something bad happening. It's unfortunate that ultimately resulted in taking a touchdown off the board. But like I said, also there were multiple other factors. That interception by Avery Johnson was not great. I will also say this: Kansas State, I thought once they got into field goal range, they played it a almost a little bit too conservative and nearly screwed up late in the game there when it came down to that field goal attempt. By the way, I don't know what it is just about college football and the NFL so far this year. Can teams just not figure out special teams? I feel like we've forgotten how important special teams is in the games.
Yeah.
Obviously, we'll talk more about the NFL stuff in the NFL episode, but like I think teams have just forgotten, hey, special teams vital part of the game, and we kind of saw that with the end here.
Yeah, agreed. Then we have a couple of top 10 stunners here. UCLA gets their first win of the season with a 42-37 victory over Penn State. And look, I'm going to be downright honest. This talking about last week and what happened. And look, you had people maybe saying, this is the problem with James Franklin. He just doesn't get it done in the biggest situations. I came on here and I said, look, I get it. It sucks to have another one of those big games lost when, it's at home and you really want to have one of those big seasons and they can't turn the corner. But you were right there and it was overtime. I said, give him a break. Give the guy a break. He played, they did their best. They were hung right there with Oregon. But then to come out and have this performance yesterday or this weekend, just it's embarrassing. I was embarrassed watching this game. I'm not a Penn State fan. I like James Franklin, and this was bad. Drew Lohr, what has happened to this guy? He just does not look the same. And then we talk about it, fourth down conversion right at the end of this game. Drew Lohr keeps on maybe the most obvious give of all time on this option play. He's hit way behind the line. Um, and then it was just the most bizarre coaching decisions of all time from James Franklin. And it just led to this ugly, messy end to this game for Penn State, where they get stunned by a team that hadn't won a single game this season.
Before I get my points, I'll just go ahead and lay out a couple of stats for you. Um, this was the first time since 1985 that a team 0-4 or worse has beaten an AP top 10 team since 1985. Um, so that's one thing, and that one's already bad enough as it is. Then you look it up. UCLA interim head coach Tim Skipper is now tied with James Franklin with career top 10 wins against Big Ten opponents. He's literally tied with them for the interim. He's already. And then to top it all off, shout out John Neuheisel, obviously the story, the offensive coordinator, and his dad working with CBS. That was a great story. The dude literally became the offensive coordinator, interim offensive coordinator 2 days before the game. Barely had any time to get a game plan together. And the dude didn't even know how to work the headsets on the sideline when trying to talk to the players. Like, how do you lose this game? How do you lose this game with everything that's gone bad for UCLA? It blows my mind. And you know, if you would have told me like in a week UCLA was going to win, I'd be like, okay, man, so like a 16-10 game or something, like the Penn State offense didn't show up or something. Because I know the Jim Knowles defense will show up. Not apparently this week. Nico Maliava probably played the best game of his career in this game. That's saying something. He had some good games against Tennessee. Couldn't stop the run. There were 270 yards rushing there. Nico was efficient throwing the football. No turnovers. I think it was, shoot, how many drives in a row was it? Touchdowns for UCLA? It was like 4 or 5 touchdowns in a row that ended. It was embarrassing. And whenever Penn State made it 35 or 35-42, and you're like, okay, or no, my bad, 35-28. And I was like, okay, listen, you got a 7-point game. The Jim Knowles defense will walk in. No, they go right down the field on that defense. Again, this is a coach that literally created a game plan for the offense in less than 2 days and didn't even know how the headset worked for most of the game. It's one of those where, and again, me and you love defending James Franklin. We feel like it's like one of our purposes in life is to defend what James
Yeah,
Franklin has done at Penn State. This is undefendable. I can't defend this.
I
Just
agree. I
purely
can't even.
the top 10 losses at home, but winning the rest of the games is fine. It's kind of similar to our talk with Dabo. Would he lose the big games? Yes. But was he at least winning the games against the teams he was supposed to beat? He was. And it did not happen here. And you know, I would say there's a good thing for you, Penn State. Let's not forget you still got to play 2 more top 10 teams. There is literally, you could go 7-0 the rest of the year and beat Ohio State and Indiana. You might still not get in the playoff at that point because of how bad this loss is. So, if you want anything, you got to keep on winning. Have fun trying to win at number 1 Ohio State. Have fun trying to beat that Indiana offense if your defense is getting cooked by a coordinator who had only 2 freaking days to come up with a game plan.
Agreed.
It is easily, I don't think there will be a bigger upset this year than this game. I'll just leave it at that. I don't think we'll see a bigger upset. You know, knowing my luck, it'll probably happen this weekend somehow that we'll have a bigger upset. But this is just, I mean, it's just embarrassing for them. And yeah, I really don't know what else to say. I think I put my point across with some of those facts. I mean, it's just embarrassing.
I agree with you. And while we're sitting here thinking about it, I remembered the James Franklin coaching debacle that I was so angry about because I just said generally at the end of the game he made a coaching debacle. I remember the punt at the end of the game
Yes.
where they run into the end zone. Sure, I get taken a safety there. Why are you rushing one guy? How do you not rush 10 and try and rip the ball out of that dude's hands? He's a punter, for crying out loud. What are they going to do? Fake it from their own 5? It was, again, like you said, is inexcusable and undefensible.
Well, and then not only that, there's the play game on the line, 4th and 2, 4th and 4, something like that, and you run a freaking RPO with Drew Alar. That play, I literally saw him run that play 4 times against Oregon. You don't think UCLA was ready for that crap? It's it's yeah, we need to move on. Otherwise, I could sit here and talk about this for like the next hour. It's embarrassing, and I want to root for Penn State. Obviously, we both picked them to win the Natty and stuff, but like this is inexcusable. I don't care if you're a fan of the team or not. This is inexcusable.
I agree. It was bad. Um, Another big moment, basically happening at the same time. Florida takes down Texas 29-21. And look, this is just the truth. Billy Napier might be the best my career is on the line coach there ever was in college football. Because you think about it, coming into this game, if you fall to 1-4, even though it's number 9 Texas, Florida fans and the university's probably like, well, you know what, Billy? Think we might go a different direction. Again, a team that was hyped up is supposed to compete in this SEC this year. Probably going to be like, hey, it's been fun, but we're gonna go in a different direction. But Florida Gators head coaching career on the line, Billy Napier is a different animal, and they win again against Texas. And look, just flat out wild what happened in this game. Lagway looked the best he's looked all year. And Arch Manning, look, he had an all right game, but 2 interceptions, still not great. I think the best throw that was made was Caldwell making the throw at the
Yes.
end of the game, coming in relief. Though I will say this, not that I think it would have changed the game, but I was pretty sure that was a 15-yard penalty for ripping off Arch Manning's helmet. That's a
Yeah,
pretty
it might have been. It might have been.
it was pretty high. I can't believe nobody even said anything about it. Now, I didn't see a replay, so I don't know. They didn't show a replay because they had to keep going up tempo because they didn't throw a flag.
Right.
But that may have been the best throw of the entire game. Caldwell's one throw there at the end. Um, but Florida just looked like the Florida team we've supposed to have seen all year long.
Yeah, let me just say this. It never even crossed my mind that we should focus on this game last week because I thought Florida was going to win the game. And for those of you who say, "Oh, you're just saying that now and that," I literally went on another show and picked Florida to win. So if you want to, there's my proof over there on that channel. So there you go for that. No, I'm just glad I no longer have to sit here and pretend like Texas is a good football team. They're not a good football team, and it's not just Arch. The offensive line sucks. Their offensive line got destroyed in this game. I think Arch got sacked like 5, 6 times, was constantly pressured. Part of the reason he threw some of those bad interceptions. But they couldn't run the ball either. Only 53 yards rushing. Arch Manning was the leading rusher in this game. They couldn't run the ball. Arch Manning was scrambling for his life. And so it was so much so I was also like, yeah, I expected Florida to win this game. Like it was somewhere it didn't even cross my mind. But you are absolutely right. When Billy Napier's butt is on the line, the man knows how to get it done. And I will say this looked like a Florida team in this game that has not quit on their coach at all, which is something you like to see despite all the disappointment at the start of the year. It's a team that hadn't looked like they quit on their coach at all. Now, am I saying they're going to go on a run and win the final 7 games of the year? No, I'm not saying that. Am I saying they're going to go out there and get humiliated by A&M this weekend, which, by the way, totally random. A&M fans on our TikTok post, quit being butthurt little losers that we thought Mississippi State would give you a good fight. I'll go ahead and clip this and post this on TikTok later. I don't care if you were crying about us saying that we thought Mississippi State would give you a fight in that game. Tough crap. Deal with it, okay? But
Well, let me say this. I didn't think Mississippi State would win, and I don't think Texas A&M's bad.
we, yeah,
I don't know where that's coming from. We've been pretty big on Texas A&M. I've
I,
liked what I've seen out of Marcel Reed this season.
yeah.
Mississippi State's played
It
good
was legit
football this
irritating.
year.
Like I think that TikTok post got like 5 or 6 comments talking about, wow, what a prediction, great analysis, heck of a fight. This now I'm like, buddy, we were literally talking good about your team at the start. Like, what do you want from me on that? But back to talking about Florida, back to focusing on Florida here. That was just a subtle rant I needed because they were legit ticking me off with how much they were commenting on it. But for Florida, yeah, DJ looked the best he did. Dallas Wilson, the true freshman, looked pretty good whenever they got him the football in his hands. And like I said, I'm just happy I don't got to sit here and talk about Texas as a top 10 team. Number one, they should have been nowhere near the top 10 based on the last couple weeks of performances. They were lucky to even be ranked at all in my eyes. And now somehow they're going to play Oklahoma, and John Mateer's probably not playing. So, knowing our luck, they'll probably beat Oklahoma somehow, and then we'll be sitting here talking about, oh, Texas is back in the fight. But for now, I'm glad I don't have to sit here and talk about Texas as a good team because they're not a good team.
Yeah, like you said, this is a lot bigger than Arch. Honestly, I know he's turning the ball over a lot and he's not throwing it super accurately. I really don't think he's playing bad considering. Like you said, this offensive line is not good. How is a guy going to have a good completion percentage if he's getting hit or he's having to throw on the run a lot?
And
Uh,
also, if you can't run the ball, defense knows exactly what you're going to do. You keep
yeah,
on getting yourself
so
in these third and long situations. It's they know exactly what you're going to do.
I get that he hasn't been this like prodigal son that everybody thought he was going to be. I don't think he's been that bad though. I think that it has a lot more problems to do with the team as a whole. But let's talk about Virginia, Louisville. Two teams played an absolute fantastic game uh, in overtime, battling for one of those top spots in the ACC. Really, these two teams are battling to be in the rankings. You had Virginia at number 24, Louisville unranked, but right knocking on the door. This win certainly probably would have gotten them 25 or 24. But Virginia comes out 30-27, and they look like a fun football team that could challenge in this ACC. I don't know if they're going to come out and just contend with Miami if these two teams do meet in the ACC championship. But they look like a fun team right now that's getting it done in any way possible to win. They could be an exciting ball club to see come a conference championship time if they can keep this run on.
Yeah, I'll just go ahead and answer that question. If they meet Miami, no, it will not be a game. I love Virginia and I'm rooting for you. It will not be a game. Miami will throttle. It will be like when they made the ACC championship and played Clemson, if that's the case, in my honest opinion. But talking about this game, for the people that are just box score watchers, you look at this game, total yards, Louisville 383, Virginia 237. Not a lot of passing, only 149 yards passing for Virginia, 88 rushing yards. How the heck did they win this game? Turnover battle matters, ladies and gentlemen. Two defensive touchdowns for Virginia. You had the fumble recovery for a touchdown early in the game. You got the pick six in the like basically middle of the third quarter, I think. And able to kind of get on top. Then in overtime, your defense gets the stop and you go down and score the touchdown. Pure and simple. The turnover battle helped Virginia in this game. And again, I'm with you on the schedule thing. Look, now that Florida State lost, obviously we'll get to that game in a minute. It's essentially Miami's number one. Miami's going to be their end of the year. It's just who's going to face Miami. That's pretty much what it's looking like in this ACC right now. And you look at the rest of their schedule, Washington State, at North Carolina, let's not even discuss whatever that was on Saturday. At California, Wake Forest, at Duke versus Virginia Tech. Am I going to sit here and tell you they're going to go 11-1 through those games? No. I'm not going to sit here and guarantee nothing there because California's got very good QB play. Wake Forest literally beat Virginia Tech. Shout out my bet of the week there. And Duke's a pretty solid football team. They went to Cal and destroyed them on Saturday night. So I'm not going to sit here and say they're going to go 11-1, win out, and make the things interesting here. But this is a schedule that's doable. And like I said, with how wide open that second spot is, it's really them or Georgia Tech in the running right now. So we'll see how that plays out there. And for Louisville, again, I want Jeff Brom and them to do good, but they keep on losing these close games since he's been there.
Yeah, that's again the big hiccup we kind of talk about. This is another one of those spots that you've got a chance to really assert yourself, not just in the ACC but in the national picture. And you come up, 3 points shy. in this one, it's almost just like, what can this team do to take it to the next level? Because Jeff Brom has gotten great quarterback play out of Miller Moss this year,
Mhm.
and in this game, and they just can't get the job done. Let's take it over to Alabama versus Vandy. This was college game day. And look, the Tide had revenge on their mind. They win 30-14. And man, after this Florida State game earlier this season, been a different looking Alabama team, especially over the last couple of weeks. They look like a strong, strong team. And they look like a real contender.
Yeah. So, number one biggest takeaway here. Congrats to Gabby on College Game Day. I don't know if you got to see her do the field goal thing. Uh,
No.
so the way it worked out. So obviously, for those of you who don't know, Pat McAfee's um, field goal challenge he does. Gabby was a girl. She won the raffle, and the last couple weeks they had brought like people who won it were like, I'm gonna have this guy kick for me and stuff. Gabby was like, no, I want to do it. I want to do it. And she had never kicked a football before, kicked any ball in her life, is what she said. And she's like, no, I just want to do it for fun. I was like, you know what? I respect that. I respect just going out there. Now, I'll be honest with you. She went out there first attempt. It was not even close. It was straight. I'll give her that. It was straight. The ball barely went off the ground, but it was straight. So then Pat McAfee could have just been like, oh, I'm just gonna uh, move on. Hey, I appreciate you trying. Then he comes up to Kirk and is like, if Kirk can throw this football from the field goal spot through those goalposts, we'll give you $300,000. And Kirk, to his credit, in a full suit at 56, threw that football over 30 yards through the goalpost, and she won $300,000. So I thought that was a cool little story from
Wow.
game day. So congrats to Gabby and credit to her for trying
Yeah.
because she could have very easily gotten someone else. Now, focusing on the game, pure and simple. What the reason this game happened? Turnovers in the red zone was truly the difference in this game. I love Diego Pavia. He had the fumble early on in the red zone when Vandy could have gone up by double digits early. Then they're driving down to take the lead in the fourth quarter, throws the interception in the red zone. Truly was the difference in the game because Vandy's defense was great in this game. They were holding Alabama to 3 every time they were going down the field. And then it broke away at the last second for that touchdown. Yes, I am butthurt about Bama scoring that touchdown at the last minute and somehow covering the spread. I am very upset about that for those of you who don't know about it. But let me say this. Did Bama look like the better team? Yes. But let me say this. Did Vandy look like they were severely outmatched in this game? No. It's not even close. Vandy looked good. They just had mistakes in the red zone. Defense looked good. And listen, am I going to sit here and say they're going to win 9, 10 games this year? No. But I guarantee you they'll be competitive and have a very good chance of doing it. Because, like I said, this is a different Vandy team. You clean up the mistakes, you probably win this game. But, and for Bama, like you said, they have looked great these last couple weeks. I feel a lot better about picking them to win the SEC now than I did after week 1, I'll be honest with you.
Yeah.
Jam Miller has looked good. Ty Simpson had, I would just say this. If Ty Simpson's last name was Manning, we'd already give him the Heisman Trophy this year. He's been awesome with the way he's played for Bama, and they got this big win. Although it doesn't get any easier with these next 2 matchups that they got. Doesn't get any easier.
Agreed. Final game we're going to look at from last week. Number 3, Miami takes on number 18, Florida State in Tallahassee. And look, for the first 3 quarters of this game, kind of a snooze fest, kind of a boring, oh, this is kind of what we expected. Miami is just going to roll through this game. To Florida State's credit, 19 unanswered in the fourth quarter, and they come up just 6 points shy, 28-22. There's a lot more fight left in these Seminoles, and if they can find a way to sneak into that ACC championship, they can make a recovery and challenge Florida or Miami. That could be an interesting game. That might be a matchup in the ACC championship where I say, hey, maybe somebody else besides Miami wins this division or wins this conference.
I will just flat out say this final score is not even close to telling the story there.
Agreed.
Miami is basically here's the ACC. This is where Miami's at. Miami's clearing away the best team talent wise. Defensively, they shut down Castellanos most of the game. Offensive line was good. And the big difference here was instead of playing in pouring rain weather in Miami, it was a clear night. able to air the ball out with Carson Beck. He made some big time throws down the field to Malachi Tony and them. Uh, and CJ Daniels. They were all great for Miami. They were clearly the better team throughout the night. It was those little, okay, you can get these points here and there. Okay, we'll just make sure we recover the onside kick and we'll get out of here. But the final score does not even come close to telling the story. I mean, Miami's clearly the best team in the ACC. Now, I'll just say this for Miami. They should run away with it and make the ACC championship, probably be the number one team in the country. Weren't we saying the same thing about Miami last year, though? Weren't we saying that they were a
Sure.
clear-cut team to get in the ACC championship last year? And then Georgia Tech happened. And then Syracuse happened. So, again, I think there's not a team that can compete in the ACC with Miami, but I also know what happened last year, and I'm not an idiot. So I'm not going to guarantee anything. But so far this year, they look like not just the best team in the ACC, but probably the best team in the country.
Yeah, I can get behind that. But let's talk about our team and player of the week now. Go ahead and start us off with your top five teams of the week.
So at number five, I'll be honest with you, I was trying to search for another one, but I ended up going with Alabama here again. Impressive win. I give them credit for not overlooking Vandy again, which I knew they weren't going to do after what happened last year, obviously. So congrats to them for the win. Number four, Washington. Those of you who didn't get to see this game against Maryland, I believe they were down 20-0. Maryland got up 20-0 on Washington this game. Washington scored 24 unanswered points to come back and win on the road and get to 4-1. That's the Washington team I was talking about in the preseason in that game. So love getting them. So love number three, Florida. Great win for them again. I would have put them at one or two, but again, I expected them to win this game, so it wasn't like as big of a shocker to me. Number two, Cincinnati. Handling business, making things interesting in this Big 12. Again, they ran the ball really well. I will say this. Can we get a sold out crowd at that stadium again? That stadium was still like partly empty
Yeah.
for the game on Saturday. Like, let's get a full crowd in there. Come on, guys. They're competing in the Big 12 here. Come on. But at number one, it doesn't even matter what any of the other teams did. We had the upset of the season. UCLA taking down Penn State. I know I ran about Penn State, but I'll give UCLA this. Nico and them look great offensively in the game. That's really what helped them here. And yeah, props to UCLA for the win. Biggest upset of the season.
Yeah, absolutely. At number five, I went with Baylor. I thought even though, sucks for Kansas State, this was a great performance by a Baylor team that's just looked much better offensively than they have the last few years in the Dave Aranda era. Sawyer Robertson really looks comfortable in this offense. And I know the turnovers starting to catch up with him a little bit, but he's still playing great football. Liked what I saw out of this Baylor team. Challenging, fighting all the way through in a pretty awesome game from this Saturday. And number four, I went with Alabama. Like you said, didn't overlook Vanderbilt. Knew the challenge that they were going to bring. Again, another great game, even though the final score doesn't exactly show it. But they come out and they get the job done and they avenge that big loss that really kind of started to tear apart their season last year. And had they lost this game here this year, it could have done the same thing. You would have been at two losses, now one in conference, one out of conference. Could have been a whole mess of a season, but they get everything under control and they're looking like a real contender right now. And number three, I went with Cincinnati. Look, a great game and a pretty dominant victory for the most part. But here you're at three. I just basically went in order of where these teams were ranked that got
Mm-hmm.
upset. Just bigger and bigger wins as they go. At number two, I went with Florida. Look, man, I can't say more than I already have said. Billy Napier, heck of a job. Somebody just needs to tell this guy his job's on the line
If
before
you
every
lose this
single.
game, you're fired. Just tell them that every
Yeah,
single week. Pretty much, you'll be good.
because he's got something else going when he needs to win a big game. And he does so again this weekend. It's the thing that makes you want to keep giving him a chance. He's like anti James Franklin.
I will
He
say this. I will say this for Billy Napier. And for his time in Florida, it's great he's winning under pressure, but I'm sure the Florida people are thinking like, dude, like, come on, like, because
yeah.
you either keep him around enough where he can keep on doing this, or you just fire him before he can do this, because now you don't have no reason not to continue with him and see what happens pretty much for the rest of the year.
Agreed. And again, they're going to be tested again this weekend, which we'll talk about
Mm-mm-mm.
here in a minute. And then at number one, obviously, like you said, upset of the year, probably not going to be a game that tops this, at least for a couple weeks, hopefully. All those teams sitting at the top of the top 25 would like it to stay kind of the way it is right now. But yeah, this was a great game. This looked like a real team. And look, you got all the interims coming in, and it's no offense to Deshaun Foster, I believe
Hmm.
that his former head coach was, but
Yeah,
just absolutely no experience coaching a football team, pretty much whatsoever. And you can definitely tell there's a little bit of a difference in the way this team is being managed now than it was before. So no disrespect, but we're starting to see a much better UCLA program and a much better version of Nico in for this team. But as far as social media is concerned, everybody was consensus. Me, you got them at number one, win all across social media. So that leaves them only one spot. UCLA is our team of the week this week. Like you said, upset of the weekend, upset of the year. Hard not to get these guys as the best team of the week.
absolutely. With that, and you talk about it with the coaching staff, Tim Skipper. Let's not forget he was the interim at Fresno State last year, led them to a bowl game, if I remember correctly. So he's been in that situation before. So I'm not surprised with that. The play calling stuff, I mean, that was just a great story, along with it being on CBS with his dad being able to watch him in studio get carried off the field. It was awesome for him. So congrats to UCLA. Be honest with you, didn't even think I'd ever see us talking about UCLA football at any point the rest of the year.
Agreed. I mean, look, we talked about trap games coming in this week, but I think you and I can both say, hand
Oh,
up or bad, we thought Penn State was going to run through this
oh,
game.
oh! I didn't even think about the game at all. I didn't even it didn't even cross my mind until I literally got a text from one of my buddies being like, "Hey, is your app working?" It's one of those games where you're like, "Is this app working right? Are we sure it's not 27-7 Penn State over UCLA?"
Yeah,
It's one of those games, and it was a great game for UCLA, and happy for them to get the team of the week honor.
yeah, absolutely. But now let's take it into our top five players of the week. Who do you got?
So number five again, defensive player. Get out of the way. Had to go with someone from the Big 12. Shout out Texas Tech dominating Houston. Again, I'll say like this: Texas Tech is far and away so far this year the best team in the Big 12. David Bailey was great on that defense. 2 sacks in the game, one forced fumble. Did a great job. And guess what? A Stanford transfer. It's amazing what happens. Again, it's amazing the talent you can find everywhere. Looking at some certain coaches there. Number four, Jam Miller. Again, Bama went with a more ground heavy attack at points in the second half. He was great for them on the ground most of the game. I remember he was injured at the start of the year. I remember, and everyone would be like, just wait till we get Jam Miller back. He's going to be a difference. And I was like, yeah, whatever. Yeah, Jam Miller's been a difference since he's been able to come back for Alabama. So absolutely. I will just go ahead and let you know. Number one, I have no idea how to pronounce this name. I will just be honest with you. So we're going to attempt it anyway. Pitt quarterback, freshman making his debut, Mason Heinshell. I think something like Heinshell, something like that. But
Yes,
um,
close.
I'm giving myself credit for being at least somewhat close. But 30 of 43, 323 yards, 4 touchdowns, 0 interceptions in his first career start for the true freshman. Man, the guy was just awesome. They blew out Boston College in this game, a game where I really kind of thought Boston College was going to be the one that won the game. So give him credit for it. Number two is a man that I know good and dang well you're going to talk about, and you love talking about him, which, by the way, in your notes you wrote it. He is a running back, I learned. He is a running back. But he's
Well,
like the flex position.
so yeah, I almost just put wing back,
Yeah.
because I guess technically that's probably what he plays in that triple option
Yeah.
offense. But he's listed as a running back, but he hasn't had like he has had like 5 carries all year.
Yeah.
He's done.
Yeah. But
He hasn't
basically to
really
summarize, Eli
touched the ball.
Heinrich is our guy we're talking about, a senior at Navy. Just a light 8 catches, 243 yards, 3 touchdowns. Something light.
Yeah, something
What a
easy.
game that was between Navy and Air Force, though. Oh man, that was a great game to watch. But number one for me, I'm sure this is one that you were probably, whenever you saw my list, you were probably like, what in the world? Why do you have a guy from Western Carolina as like your player of the week? Have you like, has he lost his mind or something? Does he know something I don't know? But for those of you who don't know who I'm talking about Teron Dickens from West Carolina. I will just be frank with you. The man had one of the greatest games, not just this year, in college football history. What a performance he had. Basically, to summarize, 53. Where's the stat? I just had the stats pulled up. Why did my phone just decide to glitch the second I wanted to talk about how great this guy was in this game? Um, I literally had it. Where did my phone go? Hold on a second. Phone's having technical difficulties. Here we go. Okay, finally got the stats put up. This man completed 46 consecutive passes to start the game. 46 he started the game 46 for 46, ladies and gentlemen. Blew the record out of the water. Finished the game 53 of 56 for 378 yards and 3 touchdowns in West Carolina's 23-21 win over Wofford. Now, let me say this. I
Wow.
saw the stats. I was like, man, they must have blew him out. No, it was a freaking close game for him. But again, the man set the record for most consecutive completions to start. 46 of 46. That's just insane for a college football game. So, congrats to him. I had to give him credit because that's unreal. He was my top player of the week.
Yeah, shout out to that receiving core as well. Holding on to everything that came your way. That's a pretty good performance. But at number 5 for me, I started with Jalen Boehner, corner out of San Jose State. This is a pretty good game for a corner. 6 tackles, 1 assisted tackle, 1 sack, and 2 interceptions. Jalen Boehner was not playing around in the 35-28 victory over New Mexico. Then at number 4, I went with Evan Pryor out of Cincinnati. He had 10 carries for 111 yards and 2 touchdowns. Definitely a major force. Like you said, they really got it going running the ball in this one in general. But Evan Pryor at the forefront of it. At number 3, you talked about it. Uh, Jam Miller, phenomenal performance. 136 yards, 1 touchdown. Big difference maker. He put a lot of pressure on. They could give him the ball and take a lot of pressure off themselves, and he just made plays happen. At number 2, I had to go with Nico. I mean, this is the performance that we've been waiting for him and this UCLA team. 166 yards, 2 passing touchdowns, 128 rushing yards, 3 rushing touchdowns. He was a force all over the field. Penn State's defense couldn't contain his legs. They couldn't contain his arms. He made no mistakes in this game. They could not stop him. Absolutely phenomenal performance for Nico and a really breakout game for him here at UCLA. And then finally, like you already talked about, Eli Heidenreich. I mean, what do you talk about? 8 targets, 8 receptions, 243 yards, and 3 touchdowns. And that's in a triple option offense, ladies and
Mm-hmm.
gentlemen. Uh, but Blake Horvath is something else. He's a guy that was a blast to watch last year. But yeah, had to give hats off to Eli Heidenreich. And when we look at the polls, kind of the same thing for UCLA. Eli Heidenreich winning all over the place. He's easily our player of the week this week.
Yeah, real quickly, I looked at the stats for the receptions just because you asked. 10 different receivers caught a pass in the game for Western Carolina. Just in case.
Wow.
Yeah, 10 of them. One guy had 13 for 102 and 3 touchdowns. So shout out to James Tyre, I think is how you pronounce the last name. But congrats to Eli Heinrich. Yeah, once I saw that stat line, I was like, okay, come on, like, come on.
Yeah.
I
Agreed.
mean, for like talk about, especially when it comes to receiving, you just don't think about those kind of stats in Navy. So I love it, man. Who would have had UCLA and Eli Heidenreich being our team and player of the weeks? See, now this is where the good stuff starts to happen here.
Yeah.
We really get
We've
rolling
been
with these odd ones.
we've been a little delayed this season. Last year was full of a bunch of goofy oddball ones and Ashton Genty winning every so often. But yeah, this year's been a much different beast. I need to start crunching the numbers and figuring out kind of where some of our players stand looking towards
I was
the
about
end
to
of
say,
the season.
I have no clue who is right now. If I had to guess someone, it'd probably be Sawyer Robertson, maybe. Like that's the
I,
only one I can think of that's been on multiple like player of the week polls and stuff.
I honestly think maybe Haynes King or maybe Diego Pavia. That would be kind of where I
Probably maybe
lean.
yeah. Haynes King
Um,
definitely is probably up there. And if Vandy has some great performances, they still have plenty of games where he can do it. Diego Pavia probably will get a lot more votes as we go down the line.
yeah, and we talk about Diego Pavia. I mean, that's a guy we had who finished in
I
our
mean, he was a
top
finalist
10.
last year,
Yeah,
so I mean, it feels like
so
he's a foregone conclusion to be a favorite for it. We'll see what Vandy does the rest of the year, though. We'll have to see what they do.
agreed for sure. But look, let's talk about this AP poll. Starting at number one, we've got Ohio State staying the same. Miami moves back to number two, and Oregon drops down to number three. Let's just leave the teams alone.
Yeah.
Nothing's happening, so can we just leave those two? I know they beat a ranked team this weekend,
Well,
but
if we're being honest, they should be 1 and 2 right now. If
I
we're really being
also
honest.
I also agree with that. But Ohio State, whatever, keep them at number one. Number four, Ole Miss. Number five, A&M moving up a spot. Number six, Oklahoma dropping down a spot. Number seven, Indiana moving up a spot. Number eight, Alabama moving up 2 spots. Number nine, Texas Tech moving up 2 spots. And number 10, Georgia moving up 2 spots. Those teams moving up 2 spots, benefiting from a certain two teams falling out of the top 10. But thoughts on this top 10? I think this might be the best top 10 we've had so far.
Yeah, my only gripe is I think Texas Tech should be ahead of Alabama. That's just my personal opinion. I think Texas Tech should be a little bit higher, give them credit where credit's due. Um, but yeah, you talked to honestly, I have a couple of stats when we get done with the AP poll I'll talk about for you because there are some interesting ones I found whenever I was doing my research about the AP poll and certain teams in the preseason polls. So I'll save that for a little bit. But my only complaint, if any, is like Miami, Oregon should be 1 and 2 already, but we talked about that last week. The new one would be I think Texas Tech deserves to be ahead of Bama. That's really my only complaint there.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think that's probably my biggest gripe right now. And I don't know if Oklahoma's going to move down because they look less impressive right now without John Mateer. I would go ahead and like to see Indiana and Texas Tech and maybe even Alabama go ahead and jump them. Then, if we're really going to punish them for one spot, I'd like to go ahead and see the rest of the teams adjusted for that because, sure, I do think Indiana, Alabama, Texas Tech, and probably even Georgia are better than Oklahoma right now without John Mateer.
Right.
And that's no disrespect. I don't really get the one shifting one spot
Like I yeah,
compared.
I don't get it either. Like we said, the top three is clear cut in a way. Like, listen, even though I don't think Ohio State should be number one, they're beating the crap out of everybody they play. They are beating, they're
Yeah.
not just winning, they're dominating everybody they play. So that is the clear top three to me. I'm not going to disagree with that top three at all. Just maybe the order of it. But yeah, but I don't get these. We're going to move this team down 1 spot just because, did Oregon even, Oregon was on a bye this week. They didn't even play. And we're like, okay, we're going to move you
Yeah.
down one. And then Oklahoma played Kent State. It's like, oh, they only beat them 44-0. Let's move them down one. Like, what are we doing?
And I don't really understand with Miami. Like, I know they beat the number 18 team in the nation, but they were also dominating that game for 3 quarters, and then they allowed 19 unanswered and only won by 6. So, I mean, I don't really know that I can weigh that as sure you beat a ranked team while this team was on a bye week, but they beat the number 3 team in the nation a week ago, and then you almost blew this game to Florida State. I just, I don't know. I don't really know how you weigh that, but let's go on to the next five. We've got LSU up 2-11, Tennessee up 3-12, Georgia Tech up 4-13, Missouri up 5-14, and Michigan up 5-15. A recovery for Michigan after, the loss at the beginning of the season to Oklahoma. And then you look at this, Georgia Tech, don't look now, but they are
Mm-hmm.
sneaking ever so close to the top 10, which I'm getting a little excited about. I feel like, remember Wake Forest a few years ago, maybe my first year I
Yep.
came on full time for the
Yes. I
podcast.
remember the Wake
And
Forest hype. Never forget the Wake Forest hype.
and Sam Hartman and Wake Forest just slowly creeped up those ranks. I think they got to 11, and then they never quite hit the top 10. They just hung out at 11 for a while until they finally lost. Um, Hopefully that doesn't happen here. Hopefully we can see Georgia Tech sneak in, but I'm starting to feel that same kind of excitement I haven't felt in a few years about a team getting this close to the top 10, like I do
Yeah.
about Georgia Tech. But your thoughts on these next five?
Well, yeah. Well, I'll be honest. I think Georgia Tech should be higher up again, like that. But that's something I've said, like I think every single week. So I'm not going to sit here and complain. Yeah, Georgia Tech. I just keep looking forward to Georgia Tech and Georgia at the end of the year. I would love it even more if it was on Georgia Tech's campus. Why are we playing neutral sites? Make it stop. Make it stop.
In-state
But
rivalries should not be neutral site.
exactly. But yeah, I think they should be ahead of LSU, Tennessee. I don't get why Missouri, who's a undefeated SEC team, is behind all these one-loss SEC teams. That's just one thing I don't get. The good news for Missouri is I honestly, in my personal opinion, think they're going to let everyone know this Saturday when it comes to that. And then you talked about with Michigan, kind of creeping their way back into the conversation. Obviously, still have some tough games on their schedule, so we'll see if they can keep it up. But yeah, slowly creeping their way up after the loss to Oklahoma. They're kind of getting back on track.
Yeah, and I think, look, we talked about it after the Oklahoma loss. We were like, you know what? They're going to finish the team as this team we think four losses, and but we're like, look at the future they've got ahead of them. Maybe getting a little bit ahead of that schedule with the way they've been playing as
Hmm.
of late. Again, like you said, still got some tough games on the schedule, but I think they're getting a little bit more ahead of schedule than I thought they would be after that loss to Oklahoma. Um, at number 16, we've got Notre Dame moving up 5 spots. Number 17, we've got Illinois moving up 5 spots. Um, at number 18, BYU moving up 5 spots. Virginia up 5 to 19, and Vanderbilt down 4 to 20. Um, I don't know. It kind of sucks for Vanderbilt because I think 4 spots is actually kind of a generous drop. Um, again, Notre Dame is in such a weird spot. And look, the AP poll just shot themselves in the foot the way this is going.
Yep.
Because
Yeah.
after winning 3 games in a row, you can't tell Notre Dame that they're not still top 25 if they were top 25 when they were 0 2. But they never should have been top 25 when they're 0 2. And that just leads to this weird part in the rankings where I feel like Illinois and Vanderbilt and Arizona State and Iowa State are teams that should be ranked ahead of Notre Dame right now. But again, just kind of the way things have worked out, is it really fair to punish Notre Dame for bad decisions made when they're playing way better than they played to start the season right now?
Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean, I don't blame Notre Dame. I'm not going to blame them at all. I'm going to blame the AP poll for being
Agreed.
ridiculous here, for being ridiculous. Because I mean, you look at all the teams, you could just go through. It's like, okay, 5-0, 5-0, 4-1, 5-0, 4-1. You know, it's going back for. I like a 3-2 team get into the top 16. How in the heck did that happen? And that's again, that's part of the reason because they shouldn't have been there. You want my honest opinion? What the rankings should be? They should be where Florida State's at this week. Like we should be like, okay, Notre Dame's back into the rankings now. That
Agreed.
to
Agreed.
me, that's how it should be. But that's unfortunately how it is. Like I said, that causes issues for Illinois, for BYU, Virginia, and Vanderbilt. I'll be honest with you, given how the AP polls kind of been rude to kind of Vandy in them, I'm really surprised they didn't drop Vandy down to like 24, 25 because of how really disrespectful, in my personal opinion, they've been to Vandy with their kind of rise so far this year. So, um, again, the main issue is just Notre Dame, but that's something we've noticed since since the A&M game is something that's just really stuck out with us and really, even coming from you as a Notre Dame fan, it's really kind of irritated both of us.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, they should be re-entering the rankings right now as the number 25 team. That should be what's happening right now. And unfortunately, it's not. And it leads to a situation where it's like, well, they keep winning and they keep winning dominantly, so we're
Like,
going to
what are you
keep
going to do?
moving
Punish
them up.
them for winning now? Now, listen, I'm curious where the college football playoff committee will put them when they start coming out with those rankings in November. That's the main one,
Agreed.
obviously, that we need to keep an eye on at the end of the year. But I'm very intrigued to see how they're ranked, especially trying to think all their games. Their next couple of games would be NC State, USC, and then Boston College would be their next 3 games before those rankings come out. So they could be 6-2, and then I think if they're 6-2, then you could probably put them in the 16 to 20 range. So we'll see what the committee does in a couple of weeks.
Agreed. And last little note about these teams here. Feels good to see a top 20 ranking next to Virginia. I don't know why. It just does. Something about it just
Yes.
looks right.
Yeah, I mean
Um,
it, especially right next to BYU and Vanderbilt. Like it's just like
yeah.
those three together. It's like, man, isn't
It's
who would? It's like the Paul Rudd meme. It's like, look at us.
yeah,
Who would have thought?
it's
Not
like
me, not me.
this little sliver right here, 18 to 20, it is what the AP poll is all about. That's what it's all about. Our final five teams. At number 21, we've got Arizona State moving up 4 spots. Iowa State drops down 8 to 22. Memphis up 6 spots to 23. USF up to 24. And Florida State down 7 spots to 25. And look, I'll say this extremely generous here for Iowa State and for Florida State. Look, I get Iowa State's only loss, so they get to stay. But you talk about it. Texas and Penn State completely out of our top 25, and Florida State is this close to being out. So,
Hmm.
I mean, minus Notre Dame, the AP poll has been incredibly strict on 3 and 2 teams this far into the season. Um, just the one strange outlier, but look, good to see those group of 5 teams starting to sneak up here. Memphis and South Florida from the American makes those American games a little bit more meaningful as we start to get into conference play.
Yeah, man, that Friday night game between South Florida and a certain team. Obviously, we're gonna get to them in a second. I'm sure. Looking at game previews, at least, I can't wait to watch that Friday night. But I'll be honest with you here. I don't know how you can keep Iowa State ranked ahead of Cincinnati after the game on Saturday. I genuinely don't know how you can do that. I get if you want to keep Iowa State in the rankings, that's fine. They're a good enough team that they deserve to be in the rankings still. But you can't look at them and be like, okay, they can stay. Cincinnati, nah, you don't get to enter the rankings yet when then that happens. So, um, really, that's my only main issue here with that is really, if I'm being honest, is like I would take Florida State out and probably put them in Cincinnati instead, mainly because kind of like you talked about, really the only one that they're not being strict with about the 2 losses is Notre Dame, and that was a whole fiasco in itself. So Cincinnati should get in there at that spot, but I'll go and mention you talked about it with Purdue, or not Purdue, Penn State and Texas being outside of it, Austin. Let's just take a look at the preseason AP top 10 and where they stand at. Number one, let's not forget, Texas was number one in the AP poll, no longer ranked. Number two, Penn State, not ranked. Number three, Ohio State, now up to number one. Number four, Clemson, not ranked. That is 3 teams that were in the AP top preseason top four that are no longer ranked and have a combined record of 8-7. I mean, that's just a disaster. To round it out, number 5 was Georgia. They're down at number 10 now. Notre Dame was number 6. They're at 16. Oregon was 7. They're at 3. Bama was 8. Now they're back at 8. That's kind of funny how that worked out. LSU was 9. Now they're 11. And Miami, who was number 10, is now number 2. So, again, that's just wild to me. 3 teams that were in the preseason top 4 are just not even ranked anymore. And again, it kind of goes back to my point I made several weeks ago about those preseason rankings.
Yeah, it's like we kind of talked about. Maybe we stop the preseason rankings, and maybe we at least let everybody play their first game before we start deciding who our top 25 teams are. Because clearly, one, it seems like the AP polls kind of phoned it in this year, as it is anyway.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
Um, and so it's just becoming less and less legitimate. It almost gets to the point where do we even talk about AP poll rankings? Do we even show them next to teams' names, or do we just wait until we get to college football playoff rankings?
If you want my honest opinion, I personally like the idea of just getting rid of the AP poll and then just having the teams play the games until November, and then the college football rankings drop. That if you want to ask me personally, I would probably like that a lot better. I'm sure there's a couple of fans that would maybe disagree or agree with that statement, but yeah, the AP poll, I don't know what it is. They basically need to reset all the voters because there are some voters in there. I saw some of the ballots. there was still some balance, Austin, that had Texas and Penn State in the top 15 after their losses this weekend. And I was like, what are we doing here? What are we doing? So like, what I'm saying is I think they really need to just basically do a hard reset of all the AP voters and say, get out. We're putting in new AP voters next year. At least I hope if they're going to keep the AP voting around, they need to change something there because some of these people I look at you and say, why in the world do you have an AP vote? You probably don't even watch those that many games.
Most of them don't, it feels like.
Mhm.
So we'll see kind of how the season goes and where things start to head. But people are starting to get fed up with the AP poll. It's not just us. So we'll see kind of if they decide to make a change, or if something else starts to happen. Uh, but look, let's talk about some of our game previews. We'll start on Friday night, the game you were hinting at. We've got South Florida facing North Texas, squaring off. Look, North Texas 1.5 point underdogs here. This is going to be a ball game where, look, freshly ranked number 24 USF, they're going to have a game on their hands. These American games are going to mean a little bit more with those numbers beside them.
Yeah, this American games are going to be great. Um, Two amazing offenses in this game, if I do say so myself. Two amazing offenses, two great quarterbacks, two great offensive coaches. One thing I love for North Texas about this just as a whole, literally last week, their president posted something saying, hey, we're letting out classes at noon on Friday, so you can all get your butts to the stadium for the game. And so I thought that was, again,
Sweet.
a nice gesture, with coaches and stuff. So um, I look forward to sitting my butt and watching this game because I expect it to be entertaining. It's one of the first few battles in the American where I'm like, all right, let's see how this American's going to play out because it's the one everyone's going to be looking forward to keep an eye on. If you want my honest opinion, if I wasn't such a homer for South Florida, which I am, for those of you who don't know, I am a South Florida homer, I would probably pick North Texas in this game with it being at home, with what I expect that environment to be like, and how good their offense has looked as a whole. But I'm a South Florida homer, and I'm going to rely on the South Florida defense to maybe get a couple turnovers and maybe be the difference in that game. But boy, oh boy, 67 and a half. I'd take the over. I'd really recommend it.
Yeah, it's going to be a fun ball game. Absolutely. Our next game pick. Look, Hogs coming back from their bye week. Bobby Petrino at the helm now. What do we think they look like facing off against number 12 Tennessee in Knoxville?
Oh boy. Well, let me just say this. The offense, if they're smart, they don't touch nothing with this offense. The offense worked as a whole. I think just, with the Notre Dame game, that was basically just an ending point for it. I look forward to seeing the new defensive play callers, new defensive staff member that has come in, new pieces, how they've readjusted the defensive staff. I look forward to see what they're doing, but talk about a rough first test. You're playing this Tennessee offense. Oh boy. Yeah, 69 and a half is the over under there. That's a really nice total if you ask me, for this game. And again, I expect a lot of points in this one. Arkansas, it's kind of similar to the point with Georgia when Georgia and Tennessee play. If you get Tennessee out of rhythm, you can get them off the field. But if they get into a rhythm where they're getting like one or two first downs on a drive, it's already over for you. They're probably going down and getting seven. You got to get them out of rhythm, get them to third and long. If you don't, it's going to be a long day for the defense. But if you're a fan of high scoring games, I really recommend tuning into this one.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting affair. I, like you, am interested to see uh, kind of what this team looks like with the kind of the new leadership and how many changes and how different this team actually looks with Bobby Petrino. Like we talked about, kind of getting the full reins to kind of change the staff and change the team. So, how different will this team
Yeah.
look coming into
And
this
and
game?
obviously the other thing too is let's remember Bobby Petrino said he wants this full-time coaching job. He publicly let it be known to Hunter Yurchek that they will do a nationwide coaching search, but he has let him know he wants to be a candidate for the full-time job. Here's your first chance to see what you can do as the full-time job. Let's see what you can do, Bobby. Let's see what you can do.
Yeah, and I think to me it's easiest test in the world too. There are going to be fans who maybe want to see Bobby Petrino back, um, and some that don't. But I think it's an easy test for the University of Arkansas. Instead of painting yourself into a corner, let Bobby Petrino have the rest of the season to be his test. You got a gauntlet of an SEC schedule. If he
Hmm.
can do something with it, go 500 or better, hey, maybe you're cut out to be coaching this team. If not, and your team doesn't look so hot, then nothing wrong with going on a nationwide coaching search and
Right.
finding the right piece to the puzzle here. But I think they've absolutely given him enough time in the season, and especially given him kind of full control, that this is his audition tape for the rest of the season. Then the next thing we're going to talk about, number 25, Florida State, taking on unranked Pitt, a team I was high on coming into the season. They've had a rough start, but after the change at quarterback, this offense looked rejuvenated. After 2 losses in a row for Florida State, they sit at number 25. Can Pitt come into Tallahassee and upset the Seminoles once more, or do the Seminoles start to climb their way back in this ACC?
It comes down to the Pitt defense, pure and simple with this one. It comes down to what this Pitt defense can do. Slow down Castellanos and them. We kind of saw with the game against Miami. What I saw was once they made Castellanos try to do everything on his own, it kind of led to issues when they couldn't have the consistency running the ball really. Um, Basically, you get them out of the rhythm and you hold them to 3 early, and you don't let the offense get into rhythm early. I think that gives Pitt a really good chance. Uh, I look forward to seeing, obviously, a much different level of defense that the freshman's going to get to see in this game compared to Boston College. But we'll
Agreed.
see what Pitt can do. But if their defense can slow down this FSU offense and hold them to 3 at points, maybe it gives them a chance in this game. But it's going to be tough to slow down this FSU offense unless you have an elite defensive unit like Miami did last week.
Maybe the first time since I've been doing this show. We've got the Red River rivalry as a game preview. If that tells you kind of the stakes in this one. Texas falling out of the rankings after a brutal loss to Florida last week. Oklahoma without John Mateer. Look, Red River rivalry finds a way to be a fantastic game no matter what,
Hmm.
but they're going to have to dig really deep to make this a fun game to watch. But as always, I'll be tuning in. Legends seem to always be made in this game. I'm just looking forward to see who gets their name written down in Red River history.
Yeah. Had this total for the point total been higher, Red River rivalry under was going to be my bet because you want my honest opinion. This Texas offense going against this Oklahoma defense, not going to happen. Michael Hawkins, I think he's an okay quarterback, but if Texas is smart and they make him throw the ball, this will be a very low scoring game. So I'm expecting a low scoring affair. I probably will still put a little bit of money on the under if you ask me. Um, but this is a game for Texas to get back. If Texas can't get back in this one, then they're not getting back the rest of the year. Because if John Mateer's out, it's like, okay, essentially our offenses are equal with each other. Is what it kind of feels like at this point. Now, what can you do with your opportunity if you're Texas? I would probably lean Oklahoma just because I think their defense is that good, and I think they can handle Texas comfortably there. But again, we'll see with Texas what their offense and Arch Manning look like for against this Oklahoma defense. They got to get a get back spot. This is the get back spot. If they don't get it here, it could be a snowballing effect for Texas. The good news for them is they would play Kentucky, Mississippi State in the next two before they played Vandy, Georgia, Arkansas, and A&M to end the year. So, maybe, but this they got to get this one if they want any chance. They got to get this one.
I agree with you there. Um, then we've got Florida taking on A&M in College Station at Kyle Field. And look, again, I'm not necessarily going to say Billy Napier's job is on the line. I think he might have saved himself at least for a couple weeks
No,
after the
Billy
Florida.
Napier, your job's on the line. Your job's on the line, Billy. Your job's on the line.
But pressure, big moments. It seems like Billy Napier's teams play better in these bigger games with a lot more pressure on them. But it's going to be completely different than last week. You're in College Station. You're not in the swamp. So the fans are going to be against you, not for you. A&M's going to have the momentum in this game, but can Florida pull off another surprise upset?
Yeah, for all you A&M fans, bet of the week's for it. I'm kidding. No, I'm not that much of a hurt person. But I will say this also. I think A&M again. If it's in Gainesville, it's a different story. But with it being in Kyle Field at night, I think it'll be tough for Florida. Again, similar to what I say about Florida pretty much every single week, the defense gives them a chance in the game. Defense will give them a chance. It's what can DJ do on the road in this environment. I look forward to seeing what he can do. two quarterbacks that really could have a big moment in this game for both guys, could have a really big moment. It's just who's going to be able to have more success throwing the football. I'd probably lean DJ Lagway in the game, but we'll see what Florida can do. Again, hey Billy, your job's on the line, buddy. So yeah, we'll see what you can do. But
Yeah.
it's going to be an interesting game at Kyle Field on Saturday night.
I'm with you there. I'm looking forward to it. But let's talk about a couple games we got kicking off at the AM on Saturday. We're getting into our game picks here. 11 a.m. in Columbia, Missouri, Alabama, clashing here in a big time SEC battle for two top 15 teams, looking to continue to rise in this SEC, rise in the national spotlight. Who do you got in this game?
I'm just going to be honest with you. For those of you who know, I am not the biggest fan of Missouri. I've never truly been a big fan of the school. Missouri's going to beat Alabama on Saturday. I will just let you know right now. Missouri is going to beat Alabama. Number one, the run game. I have tried letting people know how good Ahmad Hardy is for Missouri. I think people are going to find out on Saturday how good Ahmad Hardy really is in this offense. And Prabula, I think he'll be really good too. I think this Bama offense gives them a chance. The defense can be solid. If the Bama defense can't stop the run, Missouri will 100% win this game. I'm going to pick Missouri to win, but I kind of feel bad this game's an 11 a.m. kickoff. I kind of wish it was more in prime time, but I'll pick Missouri to get the upset.
Yeah, I'm going to ride with you here. I think we're going to see Missouri is one of the most underrated offenses in the SEC. Feels like with all the superpowers we've got in the SEC, they've just kind of fallen behind. Like you said, though, I think we're going to see that completely on display. And with this game in Columbia, I think they got the edge from the fans that they're going to need to push past this Alabama team and derail that big rise for Alabama that they've been on. Then also at 11, Fox Big Noon Kickoff makes me sick to my stomach. Illinois hosting the number one team in the nation, Ohio State. Look, this game's in Champaign. I'm going to take Illinois because I'm biased. But look, they've got a good defense. They've been playing better as of late. I think for sure they keep this game close. It's a matter of how this offense can rise to the challenge against this pretty well coached Matt Patricia defense this season for Ohio State.
My thing is, again, this Ohio State defense has been, I won't just say great. It's been incredible. It's been phenomenal defense the way they played this year. Again, their offense really hasn't even had to try in any of their games yet. So my question for Ohio State's offense in this game is if it comes to a point where Julian Saint's gonna have to make some big throws on the road, can he actually do it in those clutch moments? I look forward to finding out if that's the case. I'm gonna ride with Ohio State. Low scoring game though. I'd probably recommend taking the under 50 and a half. I don't think there will be a lot of points scored with how good these defenses are. I'll lean Ohio State, but I'm with you. I think Illinois probably covers the spread in this one, but I'll pick Ohio State to win.
And then the final game we're going to talk about, crazy. We've got three ranked matchups, and they're all going to happen before 6 o'clock, which is kind of disgusting.
Fair.
But we've got number 3 Oregon hosting number 7 Indiana in a top 10 clash here. This is going to be an interesting ball game. Another chance for Indiana to rise and show who they are, and another chance for Oregon to maybe try and take back that number 2 spot.
Yeah, this is interesting. These are the two top quarterbacks in the NFL draft coming up this year, if you ask me. I think this is a matchup of the two of the top guys now with how crazy things have been. Man, there's a part of me that really wants to pick Indiana in this game, but I also know one good thing, and I know one thing. Well, I'm not picking against Dan Lanning at home. I'm not going to pick against Oregon at home. I'm going to pick the Ducks to win this game. I think it'll be a high scoring affair. I look forward to it, kind of similar talking about with Indiana. I look forward to seeing what they do with another top 10 matchup on their hand. Can they prove themselves? If they can, again, if they keep this within one score, I think a lot of people will be like, you know what? Yeah, we're going to see this team in the playoff pretty comfortably. So, yeah, I'm going to ride with Oregon, maybe because I think they're at home. I'm not going to bet against Dan Lanning at home.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think maybe if this game was in the Hoosier State, we could have the debate about Indiana being able to win this game. I'm with you. I think they have the potential to be able to keep this close. I don't know about covering the spread, but certainly keeping it close won't get blown out. But I just don't know that I can pick against this Oregon Ducks team playing in Eugene. So I'm going to take the Oregon Ducks to win this game.
All right.
That's going to do it for our game picks. Final little bit here. We've got our bet of the week. And look, I was off last week. Wanted that Vandy money line so desperately bad, and it just didn't happen. But what are we looking at this week for bet of the week?
Yep. Shout out Wake Forest for getting the outright win as the 5.5 point dog. Couple I was looking at here. There's a couple I was looking at. I jokingly went last week and said, let's get a little bit disgusting. And, I was thinking, it's like, you know what? I went disgusting last week, but did I go completely disgusting? Like how can we get any more disgusting with these game picks? And then you know what I decided? I decided to go with a noon kickoff between 1-4 Northern Illinois and 1-5 Eastern Michigan. Give me Northern Illinois -1.5. I'm going to pick Northern Illinois to win this game.
Wow.
It's tough on the road with it. Eastern Michigan beat Louisiana not too long ago. Gave Central Michigan quite a battle. Nearly beat Buffalo last week. Has been one of the top ones, just so close to the edge there. Northern Illinois really hadn't had much. Let's not forget what Northern Illinois did last year, though. So I don't care if you think it's disgusting. You're probably like, Austin, what in the world is this pick? You're a freaking weirdo. Guess what? You're right, I am. Northern Illinois -1.5. Bet of the week. Sickos only will bet this, and I am a sicko, so I'll be betting it.
I'm gonna sit at the 11 a.m. slot. I'm gonna take Illinois to cover the spread plus 15.5. You're at home. Defense has really found itself these last couple weeks. I trust this Illinois defense to keep this game close. They've got a strong enough offense to do that as well. I don't necessarily know that they're going to win the game, but they are absolutely going to keep this game inside 15.5 points. So I'm going to take
I think
Illinois
so.
plus 15.5.
I will say my backup bet of the week, if I was going to have one, would probably be the under in Ohio State and Illinois. So that would probably be my backup one, but I wanted to be a little sicko and go with the other one. So fun bets of the week, ladies and gentlemen. Fun bets of the week.
Yeah, it's going to be an absolute blast. A more action-packed weekend of college football action, but obviously, again, you can't sleep on those games
Hmm.
where you expect nothing to happen. But that's going to do it for us here at the Bold Take Podcast. That's Austin Waiter. I'm Austin Hill. We want to thank you for listening.